Welcome everyone to Tech Talk Friday. And as always, Friday at 6 p.m. sharp, we talk technology and we bring you the greatest and the most thoughtful discussions on technology, sometimes intellectual, sometimes just slapstick. But either way, it seems to work. And we always have with us our most engaging and most exciting, and he claims the most handsome man in Southeast Asia. But Karamjit Singh is always there with us to guide us in a very pensive and enabling us to have intellectual discourse on technology and enabling us to bring the best minds on technology together so we can discuss together and talk all about technology. So with that, Karamjit Singh, we have a great show lined up today. I tried to use every single word I know in the English language in my introduction. How did I do? What do you think?
You better stick to your day job, okay?
All right. With that, we've got a great show today, and we've got a couple of guests today. We've got the founder and CEO for eVULX, Arun Nagarajah, and also the professor. We got a guest from the UK, Professor Irene Ng, who'll be joining us shortly. She's not flying in, but we're zooming her into our studio. So this is the beauty of what we can do now. And just very quickly, we'll quickly, there's some fun facts about this guy, Arun, young guy, ex-GE guy. He used to play the violin for many years and now plays the guitar. I don't know why that's fun. Okay, but never mind. He loves to learn. He loves to learn programming and trying out new coding language. Okay, again, I think our producer must do a better job in getting fun facts about our guests. But that aside,
let's sack the producer, man. Let's sack him.
All right. With that, there's a quick video on eVULX, this new organization that Arun heads. So let's watch that video and then let's bring Arun Nagarajah into the studio. So
we are indeed living in an increasingly mundane and stressful society. From a young age, we are told the importance of studying. But are we really learning? We're told to grow up, but are we really developing? The way of learning needs fixing, and we at eVULX think that we are able to help with it. Let's rewind and take a step back memory lane into our happiest moments. Remember, as kids, we learned the most through play and make-believe. Teenage days spent on play until we lost track of time. Well, some of us still do, and enjoy every bit of it. We want to change the perception of learning. Learning is supposed to be fun and memorable, because in truth, playing is simply learning.
So what is eVULX all about? eVULX is a digital learning simulation product house where we create games to help people learn, and we do it through creating immersive, engaging, multiplayer but fun learning experiences. We believe that the traditional learning models is outdated, and digital simulations and digital experiences is the way forward.
Support us in delivering a checkmate to traditional way we view learning. eVULX, bringing virtual learning experiences to the world.
All right, so let's bring in our guests. We have Arun in the house with us. Arun,
Hi,
welcome.
guys.
Welcome to Tech Talk Friday.
Hi everyone. Hi.
So Arun, tell us a bit about eVULX and what are you guys doing? And I know you're doing a fun round, a seed round on eVULX. Tell us a bit about what you do and why you're doing what you're doing.
All right. So thanks for having me on the show. So eVULX is really about creating immersive, unorthodox learning experiences, right? So taking learning to the next level, right? Away from the classroom, using games, using simulations, making it super fun. Incorporating tech and eventually going into even to the B2C space, right? So that's what we plan to do as a business. Currently, like you mentioned, we are on pitch in Malaysia, seeking our first kind of a seed funding. So we are asking about 200 or 300,000 ringgit, and we are about 80%, over there. So I think very good traction so far. I think we still have a little bit more to go. But
and you went live this week, right? You just went live this week, right?
Yes, on Monday. So hopefully we close it out before Chinese New Year. That's with the fingers crossed. So let's get it over the line a little bit more.
And what tell us a bit. I mean, what's the game plan of this company? I mean, over the next 2-3 years, where do you see yourself? How do you see yourself? What's going to happen? I mean, why gaming? Why adult gaming and corporate?
Right.
I mean, plan.
Sure. So I think it comes back to the central question of how people are learning, right? And especially over the last year or so, we saw that completely be disrupted, right? With COVID, COVID taking a huge hit on the traditional medium of learning, right? So number one, obviously, is I think attention span, right? I think everyone can attest to it that attention span is dropping across the board. Now the biggest commodity in the world is your attention, right? More so than anything else in the world, right? So how do you keep people and their attention spans? Number one is how do you create a platform or a medium of learning that people want to engage with, and if you think back like maybe 30 years ago and to today, the typical classroom hasn't changed much, right? It looks pretty much the same 30 years ago as it does today. But I think as we go along into the future, right, a lot more companies are kind of deprioritizing the standard way of learning, right? And they are kind of moving away from that. And everything needs to be virtual. Everything needs to be on the go. Everything needs to be at your fingertips, right? You need to be able to access it, whether you're in a classroom, in an organization, whether you're taking a flight somewhere, no matter where you are, you need to have it available. So we want to create a platform, right, so that anyone can access learning no matter where they are. But we want to do it in a different way. We don't want to give them e-learning modules and make them go through the traditional route, right? It's really about how they can engage with games, right? Because as kids, we always learn, learning whether it's playing football on the field, it's kind of a game, it's gamified, but those are kind of the experience that really shape the way you learn things and the way you adapt as a person. So we wanted to take that same concept, create digital games, make it scalable. That's the most important thing, right? Take that one product and then scale it to the world, and reach a wider audience and have a more of a global reach. But eventually, I think the real market growth, right, is in the B2C space, right? Selling to B2B is great, but I think the B2C space is where you have immense opportunity. So really taking that and moving into that direction. So how do you create games without facilitators, without trainers, doing all of that through tech, right? So that a person, all he needs to do if he wants to learn is he needs access to a laptop or a kind of a mobile phone. That's about it. That's the only kind of tech that he needs, and he can get all the kind of learning that he desires. So that's really where we want to take the business to. It starts off with B2B, but eventually we want to move into the B2C game as well.
So Arun, I'm very curious because you spent many years with GE. You started as a finance guy, went into ops. You had this very successful MNC career with General Electric, one of the biggest companies in the world that some of us used to work for also. But
I was going to say, please don't praise your alma mater, okay?
Well, it blew up, right? So anyway, that aside, but why? I mean, you gave all that up and to take on the risk of being an entrepreneur. Potentially, this business will be successful, but maybe it won't. It might blow up, right? What drove you to take that risk and want to give up that career? I mean, as far as I know from the GE guys, you were much wanted by them. So but why give it all up and go into this this niche little space?
No, I think that is a big question, but I'll try to condense it as fast as I can. But I think it's a lot to do with my background. I think in my family we've always had that kind of the ambition to be entrepreneurs, in a way, to control our own destiny, in a way. And I felt that my experience with GE was great, I still have very good kind of connections there. It's a company that I really feel attached to as a person. But I felt it was a good foundation, right? Understanding the foundations of business, understanding operations, finance, all that kind of stuff that you need. And it also taught me a lot of good ethics, the way to run a business the right way as well. But eventually, my goal was always to run something on my own, right? To control my destiny in a way, right? To take it, under my control and to grow it to the way I see fit. So it was a risk, definitely. I left in December 2019, and in January 2020, COVID hit the world, and I was from the aviation business, right? That's where I spent all my time in. And you know how the aviation business has kind of been impacted, lah. But I don't know whether it's coincidence, it's a pure luck. But I left at the time when I felt it was right for me to leave. I didn't want to start another brand new year and then leave midway. But I think it was definitely a good decision, lah, right? And today I'm doing stuff that it would have taken me like 15 years to do in GE because it's very siloed.
Wow.
You go through the standard. You're in operations. You don't really jump across a lot of different roles as quickly, right, in an MNC. So right now you need to be able to flex to do sales, do marketing, understand how you want to build your brand on social media, do all kinds of stuff. Whereas in the past you didn't have to do that. But it was just a challenge that I wanted to do. And I think I made the right decision, definitely made the right decision. And let's hope for the best for the future as well.
Okay, so there's a couple of people, everyone's kind of, hey, Arun, hello, Diwakar says hello to everyone. Reggie, who is a big CEO from China. Reggie, hello, and Reggie says, hi, guys. But there's a couple of questions, question from Eva. Thanks for sharing, Arun. How do you ensure deep learning through games? Because, games, nobody associates games with deep learning. How do you make sure participants walk away with great insights? So there's a quick question there. You want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So I think that's a great question. I think the answer isn't to get to 100%, right? So for example, when you go to a classroom-based learning, right, you have a teacher, he's teaching you. If you're attentive enough, you might get 100% of what he's saying, or maybe 90%. But I think the goal is not really to reach 100 or 90%, right? Even if you reach 80%, you have a much better channel to do it, right, and scale it, right? So deep learning is relative. I think if you can get to 80% or even 70%, that's way higher than what we are seeing today, right? Whereas the attention span of a human being is about 8 seconds. It's dropping so dramatically that you can't even keep somebody engaged for more than 10 seconds, right? So deep learning is relative, I feel. But obviously we want to get there, right? And we want to do it through just one digital platform, right? Or one product, right? We don't want to have different interventions along the way to try to drive that number up, right? That kind of takes away from the effectiveness of the digital product itself, lah. So I think if you get to 60%, 70%, that's way higher than what you are seeing today, right? And even if you look at MOOCs around the world, it's in the low single digits, right? So everyone is competing for this golden answer, or golden question, right? No one's figured it out. But I think if you can create a game that is engaging enough, that is immersive enough, and the way I always kind of describe it is like thinking about a flight simulator, right? And for you guys who've been in the aviation business, I think you'll know, but flight simulator is kind of this immersive experience. You get into this pod, you have different elements, the pod shakes and moves, and it's really immersive. You have a co-pilot because you need to socially interact, and that's how people learn best, through a community of learning. But also it needs to be virtual. So I think taking that model that has worked so well in the past for pilots and making it available to anybody, but they don't need to invest in such an expensive equipment. All they need is a laptop, right? And that they can get the same essence of a flight simulator in their bedroom, in their while they're waiting in the airport to take a flight. So we want to get that. That's the plan. And it really is about taking baby steps, really developing the first level of product, and then keep on kind of making it better as we go along, taking the feedback from the market and adapting to the product itself. So I hope I answered that question.
Look, I've got two questions for you, Arun. How many people are in the organization, and have you put in your own funding also? Because you've been running for a while now, you're only raising money now, right? So, and I assume you have not figured out the magic formula of making people work for you for fresh air and sunshine.
Yeah, good question, Karan. So our team is very small. We have only about 3 people, but we are also working with external product developers. So because I think the biggest chunk of the work is around product development.
Sure, yeah.
So around working with my COO, who is Jason, who's really the simulation expert in a way. He's the guy behind the products. He really has the experience behind it. So we are trying to loop in external kind of consultants that also kind of contribute and develop the product. And really the funding, the funding aspect of it, right? And that's why we are going off for funding, is really to work with a software developer, because we are not developers by training. So we are going out there, we are looking for a software developer to partner with that can fully digitize our products. So that, and in terms of the revenue and how we've been able to sustain ourselves, actually a lot of our products are being run. Yesterday we had a session with a customer which we ran full day sim. So our products are already in the market, but it's just a stepping stone. That might be virtual, but eventually we'll get to that digital point.
But how much of your own money have you put in so far?
So currently, I put in through the ECF round, which has been in the what do you call it, pitch-in platform. So it's very small dollar for now. We started off with a very shoestring budget. We kind of only put in very little to get us started off. And really, it's about taking the revenue that we have been bringing in from our products and then running it that way. So essentially, very small investment. We are a startup. We are the definition of a startup. Just a couple of people with a big idea, and we wanted to bring it to the world.
I think there is a question that you can take from Andrea Chu.
Right.
Wow.
So that's a mouthful.
Bring out the crystal ball. This is the crystal ball segment, actually.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I believe in. I think that it's true, because I think you can look at I think a good analogy for this is the workforce, right? 10 years ago or 20 years ago, a normal person was expected to work in a company for 30 years. That was the standard, right? Now we are moving into a model where it's more gig economy, right? Like where you can have multiple roles. There's nothing attaching you to a company anymore. And I think the same is happening in the learning space, right? Learning, the L&D or the learning and development space, especially in the education space. I mean, over the last 30 years, the innovation hasn't changed much, but the prices we are paying for education is way higher than we used to pay 30 years ago. So how does that price increase justify with the lack of innovation, right? The classroom looks the same, like I said, right? 30 years ago, today it looks the same. So
actually, with the classroom, I physically noticed that the desks in Standard 1 are definitely way smaller now than they were back then.
Probably smaller. Yeah,
I got a couple more questions. Questions are streaming in. One is, what's your business model? I mean, how do you actually operate and make money?
So we do it by licensing our products. So essentially what we do is we will be the ones who create the products. We are the product development house, and then we license our products to any learning and development company in the world, any corporate training house, any university. That's our marketplace. But eventually in the B2C side, we want to go direct to customers, right, or consumers. So we want to create a product that's fully integrated. You don't need a facilitator, you don't need a trainer, you just need a laptop, and you can get the end-to-end.
So you're primarily B2B now, you're B2B now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, primarily B2B now.
And there's another quick question. Sorry, I have to run this along because we got another guest today. How did the name eVULX come? It sounds like a very funny name.
Yeah, I think it is a funny name, but it stands for Evocative Virtual Unorthodox Learning Experiences. So we knew that no one's going to pronounce that, so we thought we'd shorten it down and keep it to eVULX.
Evocative, huh? Wow,
Evocative.
Sounds like something Karam would like, that word.
No, I want to give some branding advice to Arun. You need to come. You need to dress also in a very unconventional sense. So the next time you're on the show, don't wear party glasses, one side purple, one side green. Okay, you have to be unconventional yourself.
Okay, final question. I think we won't take any more questions from the guests, but final questions. What are 5 practical business?
Hey, Andrea, you better come and take over my place, You're doing a great job.
Imagine myself trying to start a business. What are the most important things I need? Okay, looks like Andrea wants to start her own business. What are some important things I need to settle first? Whatever that means. Not Petronas settle. This is settle.
I guess number one is you need to know whether your idea can be taken from concept to actually to reality, right? And number two is you need to have your go-to-market strategy before you actually have a product in mind. So you should have that strategy down before the product comes out, and so that when it does, you know exactly how to hit the market running. I think number three, obviously, you need some resilience. You need to be able to double hat, triple hat, whatever, to be able to fill many roles. And the other thing is you need to be comfortable with your weaknesses, right? Like for me, I never was on social media before this, but now I gotta be out there. I gotta be. I need to be posting stuff regularly all the time. And to me, that's different. But I know it's a weakness. I need to push it. But I think those are some of the tips, and then don't give up, I mean, it's a tough game, right? So the odds are against you. The only way you're going to persevere is if you keep on pushing forward.
Okay, so I see that Andrea is quite interested in taking your role, Karam. So beware, But I got my producer keep insisting he's a Liverpool fan, and apparently Karam is also a Liverpool fan, and apparently you are too. From what I hear from all the chat that's happening in the back in the studio, and he insists that I have to ask you this question. He said the most critical question in Tech Talk Friday: should Jurgen Klopp have tried something different in the game plan yesterday? Apparently, so that he keeps bugging me. He's like, please ask this question. So I don't know why he thinks you're smarter than Klopp, but apparently he does. So tell us and answer it, because Karam's weeping. He had these nice red earphones and he refused to wear them because he says he thinks he's jinxing Liverpool by wearing anything red. There you go. So you got to answer that because we don't have time for.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that is a nice question to have. I think football related. I think I would advise,
because we want to cut you down. 30 seconds.
I would advise Klopp to sell Salah to Real Madrid and just go with his two strikers up front.
Wow. Okay. Karam shaking his head, and Reggie says, so sad, Karam, Liverpool. Okay, I think I just evoked a huge emotion in a lot of people. So I bet you there'll be 100 Liverpool comments coming out now. So we will go with that. But just to close out, Arun, you have ECF going up at this point in time.
Yeah.
And that's for pitch in, right?
Yep.
You want to talk like 30 seconds what that's all about, the ECF?
Yeah. So we are raising up to 300,000 ringgit Malaysia for about 8 to 9% equity in the business, and about 60% of that is going to go into product development. The rest is going to be to do marketing and to do some operational stuff, but majority is going to go into product development. So you can check us out on Pitchin's page, and I think we're also going live on Pitchin's Facebook page as well.
Okay, so this Tech Talk is actually live on Pitchin also, not bad. So it seems like we're live everywhere, Karam. Arun, thank you so much for your.
Sure.
Arun, thank you.
No problem.
Unfortunately, we don't have time to make you go through the test or guest challenge. But lucky for you, we have Irene who will be joining us, and she will get to go through the entire grill. So how exciting, right? I'm sure you'll say yes, ladies first, but being the gentleman that you are. So with that, thank you so much, and we'll all the best in your eVULX, in your journey ahead, and also in your fundraising efforts. Karam, we have a professor from the UK, from Warwick University. So I hear also a former Malaysian, maybe still a Malaysian. We will find out. But Malaysian at heart, at least, because she was so happy when she heard me and you talking la 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 and apa macam and so on and so forth. So we've got Irene Ng, or Professor Irene Ng, who apparently loves any food that has hazelnut, even if it's terrible. And every time travel music ever made even worse ones. Don't understand that, but never mind.
A movie about travel.
Okay, got it. So with that, let's welcome Professor Irene Ng from Warwick University and also from Dataswift, right? To the show. Welcome. And Karam, I'm not going to give time for Karam to introduce you. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, because Karam usually takes about 5 minutes to introduce a guest.
No. But I will still want to, because so Irene is one of my Digerati 50, and people tend to like to ask me, Karam, who are your favorite or your top Digerati 50? Irene doesn't know this, but she is one of my 3 favorite Digeratis from this batch. And because when I first spoke to her in Malaysia, I think this was in 2018, I was just blown away by how intelligent she was. So look, everybody's more intelligent than me, but by how her career had moved from becoming an entrepreneur, she moved into academia and becoming a very successful academic. And then unfortunately for her, she had not fully gotten rid of the entrepreneur bug. It was still gnawing at her. And she has now become an entrepreneur again. So she's straddling academia and entrepreneurship now. It's amazing. And what Irene is doing is something I think very difficult. And it's something very dear to all of us, especially with the recent Facebook or WhatsApp flap, right? About them now taking all your data and people moving to other platforms. So Irene has got a way where she's going to try to compartmentalize and help you give control over your data so that we can all hopefully monetize it also. It is a very difficult thing to do, I think. And we will leave the floor to Irene, to explain how she came about this. But first, maybe your entrepreneurial journey from when your dad threw you in the deep end and said, go and run this travel business.
Thanks, Karam. Hello, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Oh, fantastic. I'll say hi to everybody, to you, Karam, and to all the listeners. It's a cold day in Cambridge today, where I'm calling in from, and I'm really, really glad to be on the show. Nothing much to talk about in terms of history. It's a bit boring. I was in the travel business in the 80s and 90s before there was such a thing called a PowerPoint deck and equity finance. I ran Sri America Travel SA Tours. It's still there. It's run by the family. And I turned around the company that was ailing. Took about 2-3 years. Ran into all kinds of buccaneering, cruise ship business for a couple of years. Sold it in 96 and became an academic and thought that was it. I was going to be an academic for the rest of my life. Not really. So a lot of my grants and a lot of my research, I'm a market design economist. I reshape markets, especially markets that are not really very well functioning, like personal data markets. And so I work a lot in defense and, to reshape complex systems with data and data coordination. And around 2013, had a large grant because I really wanted to solve this niggling problem of redesigning the personal data economy. Got the grant money, got more grant money, and then around 2015, looked at all the other 6 professors and said, we're going to do this, right? And then they go like, no, we're academics. We write about it. We don't do this, we write about it. And I go, wait, no, we got to do this. We know how we could do this, so we should do this. And so I came out and became an entrepreneur again. And that's Dataswift was born.
No, but when you say you came out, you are still academic, also part-time, or what is it?
So I'm 1 day a week still as a professor at Warwick University. And the other 4 days, because my startup is quite deep technology. And a lot of things need to get sorted before you actually start to scale up the business. Yeah. We're in the process of scaling up the technology, which is kind of exciting. But yeah, and I think when we start to scale up the technology and when we start to scale up the business, who knows if I'm still going to be the CEO, right? I mean, somebody much better might be better at scaling up the business. But for now, I am.
That is the mark of a wise person to say, I may not be the right person to be CEO, and that is too rare sometimes. So it also tells you why I'm a fan of Irene's, and I'm really rooting for her to get this going well. So, but Irene, talk about the microservers you're talking about. So, because I want readers to understand what you're trying to do, so that we own our own data and people need our permission to start using our data, right? I think when you first told it to me, so I couldn't understand it. I had to go back and listen to the recording again, and I was excited. I said, this is such a big idea, and you're taking on a tough challenge.
Yeah, so little known fact, lots of people don't realize, and this is why there's some of the memes that go around that says if you're not, what is it? If you're not paying, you're the product, something like that. I think that's the
if you're not paying for it, you're the product.
Yeah, and the reason why you're the product is because we are not very well as human beings, well represented on the internet. We don't have a server. We don't have the capacity to contract and license our data. And you just don't. You've got a couple of fingers, a mouse, and so everyone has to do it for you. It's like a world where you have a lot of money, but there's no bank account. So you've got to give it to a supermarket or your employer. That was how it was in the early days, actually. Your employer paid supermarkets and grocery stores on your behalf.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
In the early days in the US and everywhere before onset of money, whenever you got paid, it stayed with your employer. And in the village, the employer you will run out a check or bills in the grocery shop and everything, and then your employer will pay because they held all your wages. And
in Malaysia,
today, it's a bit like that.
2555.
Yeah, the 555 book. Yeah, Irene may remember. Okay. So what are you trying to do now to help empower all of us?
Well, we created a great technology called the personal data server, because to legally and represent yourself as not owning the data, owning the thing that holds the data, right? That's important, because you hold the thing that holds the data. Now you can contract and license and pay money. And so when we created it in 2015, it was very exciting. It was amazing. And then we realized that, and all my economist friends said, this is the worst thing you could possibly have invented, Irene, because now you make privacy for sale. People would just give all the data for pizza. This is wrong. So I thought about it and we're like, oh God, shit, this is terrible. Sorry for cursing.
No, that's right.
Don't worry.
We need to really build up the entire infrastructure to make it safe to transact on your data. It's like your bank. People don't think about it, but you do give all your money to an organization that's for profit.
Yeah.
You give your money to an organization that's for profit. Think about it, right? Why? Because there are already rules and regulations and governance to make it safe. So we spent a lot of time till 2018-19 to build up what we call personal data account, which is the bank account. And so basically you've got your data in there, but we also made it safe to transact. And so whether you're a developer wanting to put data in so that you can transact on it and share on it, or whether you have your credit scores or whatever you want to transact, you can be able to transact on your personal data account. And that's it.
But regulation is important. I know you said one of your big challenges when we ran your story on Digirati is that regulation. So how far have you got with regulation? At least in the UK, where you have a voice to influence, how things are shaping up.
Nope. So personal data accounts now exist, and it's we're now issuing in 5 countries. But it's new. It's like email, the first email came out, nobody knew what it was. And we're issuing in 5 countries. We're issuing in Brazil, we're issuing in US, mostly for apps and developers that want to transact, store, share the data. So it's live, and we are in the midst of scaling up. And regulatory wise, well, whether the moment it's owned by the individual, you're straight away out of scope and compliant, right? So you are HIPAA compliant, you are GDPR, CCPA, or because the data is owned by the individual. And so if you've got an app that wants to just store the data in there, actually we have one of our apps that's just launched in CES, that's just come out of CES.
Las Vegas, or the virtual Las Vegas,
Yes, the virtual CES. So if their video that uses Dataswift technology, it's just come out on out of embargo. If you I don't know whether you guys got it, but
Okay, maybe if Shashi, you can run the video, run it, and we'll stop talking. But keep talking first, then.
I think we've managed to pull that out.
At ShareTrace, we believe that everyone should feel safe. In this new world we live in, vaccination history, test results, symptoms, and exposure risks have become the price of admission. But those risks aren't always so obvious, and assessing them is equally vague. At ShareTrace, we help communities, businesses, and cities stay safe by empowering people to assess their own risks and preventing the spread of infection with a simple self-assessment app. Our team here at Case Western Reserve University partnered with Dataswift, the world's leading infrastructure for personal data access, storage, and portability, to create an app that not only protects your health and safety, it protects your privacy too. Here's how it works. After installing the ShareTrace app, get your free personal data account from Dataswift. This personal data account is yours. You own it. Your personal data stays safe and secure on your own server. So, now that you're in your private space, you can deposit information safely. A short series of questions helps the app gauge your exposure and risk. These answers, your location, and your proximity to other ShareTrace users inform your calculated risk score. Whether your motivation is an evening with friends or getting back to business, ShareTrace and Dataswift help provide a private, frictionless example of information. It is up to all of us to stop the spread of infection. Our future depends on it.
Wow. So I mean, some comments coming in, brilliant, and others. What's the business model of Dataswift, Irene?
It's in the name. Dataswift.
Data
Like
Swift.
the Swift equivalent for data.
Okay.
Oh, the
Transactions.
banking.
On the transactions.
Transactions. Data coming
Okay.
in and out.
And there's a fee that is or a piece of the pie
Yes,
that.
so it depends on what kind of data. If you're just using it like normal storage, you might know it as API calls.
Okay.
You know? But if it's more sophisticated transaction, like you're transacting on Facebook or transacting on credit scores that come from Experian, that would be a different, charge. So it's all transaction based.
Okay. So some
the-
comments.
It's not our data. I just have to say it's not our data. It's just if the consumer agrees to share, we get the transaction fee. That's all.
Transaction.
Like in
So
the
you
case,
don't-
in the case of this Case Western case study that you just showed us, right? I assume this is for COVID contact tracing.
Yeah.
And so what's the revenue model here?
So it's the same. So whether it's a deposit transaction or whether it's a demand side or supply side, this is the economist in me coming out. Whether it's a deposit or a withdrawal, they're all transactions. So that COVID app would be doing both, but because they are both putting data in and taking out like their app would do, they would pay a different, because it's their own data, they will pay different charges for the transaction, but it's still transaction. We have other apps that will transact on Facebook or credit score, and that's a different transaction. And some of them don't put all the data in the personal data account. They still have a product server somewhere. It all depends on what you need a personal data account for, right? Does it work for you? Are you optimizing for privacy or compliance or whatever? It's your bank account for data, right? So right now, with the number of apps, there are so few, I always say it's more like a savings account. You just put it in there and just wait for stuff to come.
So, but I read it sounds. Go ahead, sorry.
No. So I just like a quick question for Shaji. We hear of some top global companies getting hacked. Where is all this data sitting, and how secure is that? And what can you guys do about it?
That's the wonderful thing about decentralized personal data server. It is yours. It's your own database. It's your own server. And so it is currently built on AWS, but it's containerized, so it can actually it's in the roadmap to be built on other cloud systems and also on device as well as we move on. So that will follow that roadmap. But because it's decentralized, you have a reduced surface area for of attack, in a sense, and also the economic incentive is not there. If you hack one server, you get one guy. So just try not to be that important.
Okay. And so, can I say that is your technical challenge over, and now it's just a challenge of market education and awareness? Is this all about that, or?
Yeah. No, the technical challenge is never over.
Oh, okay.
Because when you are trying to represent every single human being on the planet, human beings are very different. Some don't know how to type a password. We have the situation in some countries where they give to truck drivers and they barely even have a phone. So how do you key in passwords when you don't even have email? And so there will always be technical challenge. And also if you give a personal data account to a child, so you own it legally. So child ownership is very much under prevailing laws. And of course, the wonderful thing about it is that there are laws about how you deal with the child or any property for that matter. So there will be technical challenges to solve real human problems, which how does a personal data account adequately represent a person who is not literate, or so that may be keychains on device, whatever, something simple. Or how does it adequately protect a child, someone who's sort of lost faculty, doesn't know whether he's giving his data away, things like that. So there will be technical challenges to solve some of these problems.
Okay. So would these? So you mentioned Facebook also. It sounds like you got microservers for various things. I thought it's like a data dump. All my data is in this one secure server, and then when somebody wants access, let's say Facebook or some app, right? Let's say one of those waves, wants to extract some data from me, I will know a request will come. Of course, this is all done remotely by bots. Now I can give permission or not, right?
Yeah. And you are giving permission from the Facebook data in your server, not
Yes,
Facebook
correct.
data
My
in
server,
Facebook
yeah.
servers.
Yes,
It would have
yes.
already come in. So it's like
Okay.
you would have to deposit in order to withdraw. So you
Should,
can't
should,
say-
should, should Mark Zuckerberg be threatened by you? Hey, I don't like what this lady is talking about, man. All these, everyone's
no,
controlling their own data, and I can't get access without asking them permission. No blanket
No,
permission.
actually, it should be good for them. Because right now it's very unsafe to transact on personal data today. It really is. I mean, if you look at Facebook, and the moment they allowed the transaction to come out, it became analytica. It's just not very safe outside of the walled gardens, we call it. And so Zuckerberg and everybody want to bring everybody into the walled garden so that they can.
Yes.
It's not just the fact that they use the data there, but also it's actually safer to transact inside. We make it safer to transact outside. But what that means is it creates a delivery channel for their data.
Okay.
So if someone comes up to me and says, "Shall we negotiate a deal of more deposits into PDA so that it can be delivered to other websites around the world?" Sure, but don't forget that's another thing. When you own your own server and your own data, it's actually a repatriation of wealth. So Malaysians that own your data and your server is actually Malaysian wealth, Malaysian sovereign wealth, in the sense that it's owned by the citizens of Malaysia. So when you transact on it in Malaysian apps, you're helping the Malaysian economy with sort of that currency.
Wow.
Which is pretty awesome. So we have people
very, very different.
When you return data to people, it just gives them incredible sense of empowerment.
Wow. It's a very different way of interpreting.
No, it's a very big idea, and that's why even the headline also, right? We call her the economic hacker, So I love the headline also, So she's trying to hack the system and put power back to all of us, right? So, but I still think, Irene, is going to be a huge challenge to educate people to say that there is actually a way for you to control your own data. And you can maybe, like you say, even monetize it also, right? It's going to take a long time. What is your time frame for getting this right? And when do you think there's the financial upside for you and your 6 other reluctant, entrepreneur academic that you dragged along, it seems?
So let me tell you, if you have to make people care about their data, you would have failed.
Oh.
You wake up in the middle of the night thinking whether your money is safe. That's it. That's my point.
Karam keeps his money under the bed.
How do I control my money? How do I control my USD? You
Yep.
don't. All you want to know is, where can I spend it? How can I get more, and where can I spend it?
Yep.
We need to create an environment where personal data account will be kept safe by governments, by regulation, by the infrastructure, so that you don't have to care about it. And the moment you see a place where that says personal data accounts accepted here, or whatever it is, you'd say, yeah, it's safe for me to transact. That's the achievement. So be able to pay $10 is a legal agreement, right?
Yeah.
When you give some data to a hotel to fill in the form, it should be a legal agreement too.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
We have a quick question from Eva, who asked, what kind of data are we talking about?
So what kind of data? Right now on the platform, there seems to be the most popular data is credit score. That's the most favorite COVID score. Oh my God, how many COVID apps do we have? COVID risk score is one of the platform's data that's being transacted the most. Credit score. Few others, income verification, fraud checks. You just can name. The apps and the developers are very good at coming out with different ones. They challenge us too, right? We have a big, massive retailer, no names mentioned, luxury retailer that said, can you give us a score on likelihood of being a brand luxury buyer? Because in our platform, we are also FCA compliant, so you can actually bring your banking data into your personal data account.
Okay.
But the personal data account is a server, so we have different what we call serverless functions that can run on your data so that you don't give your banking data out. You can give maybe simple things like income verification out.
Okay.
So so when that happens, when with this retailer happens, we go to our developer community and say, guys, do you have a code that can analyze banking data and tell me whether or not this person is a Lux buyer? And we have 3 that says, I can do it. Well, let's see how good your Lux score is. And then we'll go, and what we do is, because we are Dataswift, we just do transactions, right? We just help buy-side transactions and let sell-side transactions work.
So, I mean, there's a quick question on PDPA legality, and does this fall under that? But I have to take tack on that, one question that's, are there others that are doing this? Do you have some sort of competition out there?
Because you don't want to be the only one, right? It's very dangerous to be ahead of the curve.
Especially educating the industry, right? I mean, a big portion is going to be educating people.
Yeah, but I get asked this a lot. But there are Tim Berners-Lee with the Solid server and Inrupt. He's trying to do the same. He takes a very technical view of the asset. I take a very economic view of the asset.
Okay, interesting.
And there's another company, a few other companies that who really want to normalize data but keep it in your Dropbox, for example, so that you can reuse it, things like that. So we have different kinds of competitor that are trying to crack this nut, which is, somehow you own your data and you would use it, but because it's got so many different parameters, it is a really hard nut to crack.
And I guess the PDPA question, I guess this will,
of course.
What you do will basically validate.
It's the reason why a lot of devs come to us. The fact that HIPAA, PDPA, CCPA, GDPR, all of it. And basically, we are outside of all of it because it's individual personal data account and the legal ownership. They are the data controller and data processors themselves.
So the
data is in a cloud environment, but our technology, which is patent pending, makes legal ownership and data processing and data controllership by the individual possible, which is
and AWS cannot access that data essentially, right?
This is one of the things that in the roadmap we have to make sure that at some point the cloud providers cannot do. What we do is we have a great logging system, which is whoever accesses, whether it's AWS, because they own the cloud provision. They can potentially do it
if they want to.
If they want to, right? So what we do is we log it. We log every entry, and that log is audited by a third party. It's like a banking system, right? Can anybody go in and get your money? Sure, especially your bank. But everybody knows the moment someone goes in.
Okay, and final questions, I think, by Eva. The data range is very vast. Is there a roadmap or plan on the kind of data that you'll be including, or what included? Is there in-out scope?
You can see that Malaysian in me is still terrible. I tend to interrupt before you finish your sentence.
No problem. I do that all the time.
Terrible. But so we have data that is being scaled up. Credit score is being scaled up. So that is, anybody who wants credit score, that is the scaling. So behind it, you have more and more and more data being scaled up. So if you're not kind of transacting on credit score right now, you can always put I want this data out there. Because the transaction infrastructure, we're trying to build up to 5 million transactions. That's the ideal. And we are using 1 or 2 right now. But if you've got the need for 1 or 2 or 3 types of data, you can always make the request, because the ecosystem community just do it. Our infrastructure just do transactions. But what we do is we have to prioritize certain transactions first, because our VCs will say, which one do you start with? Well, why don't you start with the one that has actually been transacted 11,000 times last month? So that's the answer.
How much have you raised? You mentioned VC. How much have you raised so far? And are you looking when's your next round?
So the public funds have been phenomenal. Public funds, they've just raised another 23 million pounds this year on the public fund side to do the next stage of the personal data accounts, the transformation with large companies and everything. Private funds that was really building up the entire PDA patent pending, we've only raised about 5 million. We're now just about to start to scale up this technology, so we are in the market.
Oh, you're looking to raise another round. Okay. Well, at least you've got VC funding. So, Irene, just quick one, Roshan. Sorry, there's so many questions we want to ask you. So,
I know. There's a lot of questions coming in.
how have you taken your entrepreneurial experience, right, from the first time? And by the way, Irene is very modest. She's got her own website. I think it's ireneng.com. Go and she writes very well. So she's lucky. She writes very well. And you can go and read her backstory and where she actually sold her shipping company for, she built it up to about 250 million US dollar revenue, a billion ringgit before selling it. I don't know how much she sold it for, she didn't say, but she is earning that kind of revenue at that young age. Amazing.
So Irene, let me just tell you first that 250 million was a month. And by the way, the reason why it's a month is because it was a casino.
Casino. Oh yeah, casino on your ship was correct. Yeah.
And then second, I sold it at a loss of 80%. That's I sold it at a loss because I was pioneering. Don't ever try to be too much of a pioneer. I was pioneering. I was the first to bring cruise ships to Port Klang.
Yes.
And so when the other cruise ships, like the Genting group, started coming in, I went like, oh God, it's time to run. Sell out.
Wow. You could have been the Asian Sydney Sheldon, man, who just passed away. You could have been a billionaire.
Okay, we're going to take a 30-second break. We'll just do a quick break. Short video from our sponsors, Nicole, and we will get back to this conversation. Irene, we've got a couple more segments. We want to talk to Karam about the latest, greatest tech news. But Irene, we want to pick your brain one final time. So think about this. We want a piece of advice from you. Best piece of advice you can give our viewers today as we start 2021. Okay, so with that, quick break right now.
I can think of.
Okay, welcome back to Tech Talk. And Irene, usually we always have this thing called the test the guest challenge. So I'm going to do this for very fast. So I'm going to give this like a speed round. We ask you questions, you answer them right away. Don't think much, and just answer them, right? So 5 questions only. Try to answer as many as you can. Question number 1: why hazelnuts?
Oh, it's the best nut in the world.
All right. Are you the rose in between 2 thorns or the thorn in between 2 roses? What kind of question?
Talking about? I'm the rose and the thorn.
Either they're implying, and I think it's between Karam and me, but never mind. Lousy producer, lousy question. Okay, next one.
Sack him.
Malaysia or UK? KL or Cambridge?
Hey, this is 2021. No one has to choose anymore.
Wow. All right. So what's the worst thing that could happen in 2021?
The same as 2020.
And I don't know why everything is worse today. What's the worst part of this show, Tech Talk Friday?
Karam didn't put on the red headphones.
Aiyo, Karam.
Hey, just for you lah. Okay lah.
There you go. Irene, before we get to a quick segment, just some quick final thoughts from you. What sort of advice or nuggets of wisdom would you impart to us as we start 2021? It's a very challenging year. Still a lot of questions circling us, in terms of what's going to happen, and the future is a bit blurred still, in spite of the vaccine and all the supposedly good news that's in the horizon. What sort of advice would you advise tech owners and just general population, especially here in Malaysia and Southeast Asia?
Get a proper media diet, which
media diet.
Yeah. It's like your physical diet. You eat and you take too much sugar, you get obese and fat. Media diet, you watch too much, read too much daily. What is it? You read too much of the Express here or the Daily Mail. You get shit, right? You get shit.
QAnon, yeah.
Oh yeah, QAnon, whatever it is. Make sure you understand you only have 8-10 hours a day. Make sure you get your proper to ingest information on the internet, which is whatever it is, Facebook, whatever you read is your diet. Just make sure you have a balanced one.
And I think you make a very good point. What you read is who you become, right? And who you start thinking. And we see the diversiveness of media in all over the world.
And it's a lot of junk out there. A lot of junk out there.
So let's stay small. Yeah. I know. Tess says, "Wow, great advice," and Eva says, "Very interesting indeed." So thank you so much. I think that was one very, very sound advice. I mean, we wouldn't have expected less from a professor. So we would have been
entrepreneur, professor, entrepreneur. Yeah.
It's whatever you choose to call it.
and Saji says, "Great guest we had today, guys. Thanks." And so it's been a great show. Very quickly, and I don't know, Irene, if you want to stick around. Karam wants to share a little bit on a couple of things that he thinks are very interesting. So Karam, maybe your final thoughts from your beard. I mean, from you, in terms of a couple of things that are happening. Right? You say that maybe we can go through MDEC. MDEC's a range of changes. Right? 8 people have left. Junita is a CFO, and a lot of new changes coming from different places. You want to talk very quickly about that?
No, because MDEC is going through now. They're calling their reinvent mission. They want to accelerate the pushing Malaysia's digital economy around this new concept they want to promote called Malaysia 5.0, and they're just doing a revamp, a refresh of the leadership team. And I think because 8 of them have left over a period since from October actually, but somebody sent a tweet out day before yesterday saying there's like a mass exodus or whatever, right? And people latch on to that. Oh my, what's going on? Why so many people leave? But it's not true. But in this world of social media, naughty news and catchy headlines get spread much faster than the boring old truth.
Yep.
So I'm actually writing a commentary on that now. So wait for it; it'll come out and try to give a balance.
So all these are news from Digital DNA, right? Digital News Asia.
Yeah.
So, okay, this is on Liran Mix. Okay, since you talk about it, since you wrote about it, go ahead, Karam.
So this is Roshan himself. Irene is raising his Series A now, also on an equity crowd platform. Yeah.
This is Liran Mix, my organization,
not the business.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Roshan is raising it through Leaderonomics, and he's and I think what he's doing is quite interesting. And they always say what struck me about this is I've known Roshan for a long time, and Irene, they always say that if you speak to VCs, they say that at the end of the day, aside from business plan, aside from financial modeling, and the people bring on, they will decide almost always based on Irene. Can I trust Irene? Can Irene hack it? Can she stand the pain of being an entrepreneur? Because earlier Arun said that it's important. You must have resilience to be an entrepreneur. But I don't like the word resilience because it puts a nice gloss over it. I think it's pain. How much pain can you take? Are you willing to take as an entrepreneur? When the shit hits the fan and everything goes against you, how crazy are you to stay the course, right? Great or whatever. And this kind of and I think knowing Roshan, I think that Roshan is somebody you can absolutely bet on. He's crazy. I know he's taken on for personal, increase his financial pain because of what happened last year to make sure that his people still are around, right? They've got a job, and he's got this amazing social community streak in where he works to make sure that others, the lesser members of society, are also part of the ecosystem. He tries to bring people up, right? He does a lot of things, with his time and with his group of people. Let's help here, let's help there. Amazing person, A+ personality. If it's really true that on VCs invest on the person, there's no way Roshan cannot raise $10 million or so.
Yeah.
So
we are raising 5 million only. So that's
ringgit, not even US dollar.
Yes, US dollars. So Malaysia buy now, pay later platform Split raised.
This is one of the interesting 2 young guys, right? They've come up, and this is a people are doing this also, Irene, right? Roshan, they're allowing you to buy something and pay later. But the company that's doing this, in this case, this company, right? They say that we will tell the merchant, look, we will pay the money that Karam just bought a basketball, but we will pay for him, and they're calling themselves Split, SPLIT. So it's very interesting that they are now in the game and they want to try to make it. It was 2 young guys, so they got a lot of drive, and they've got very little to hold them back now. So it sees how they do. And then the last one is actually on this law firm. Actually, I'm excited about this because now your typical brick and mortar, very heavy paper organizations are also using technology. In this case, this law firm, Sheng & Co., they've launched Ask Ayla, which is, I think, artificial intelligence legal assistant, right? And they say that they are the first AI legal assistant in Malaysia specializing in labor law. And I love it when your brick and mortar, typically very heavy paper-based organization, say that, hey, I want to get into digital economy. I want to use some technology product to make my process, to make my business more efficient. And power to them, and I hope they succeed.
Wow. Okay. So, Proloy, he says, so true, Karam. Negative news spreads faster than positive ones. So he agrees with you there, but he doesn't agree with you that VCs bet on the on the good guys. They always bet on jockeys. So there you go. So Karam, we've got a 50-50 rating for you in terms of.
Oh, wonderful. Divergent views are welcome. Sorry, Irene, you said?
It does depend on the stage. At seed and before seed, yes, absolutely. But if you get to Series A, I think it's about the business. I mean, come on, at IPO, who cares?
Oh, yeah, true.
So, it's a graduated thing. First it's the person, and then becomes the business, or the team, and then the business, and then revenues.
And Proloy, thanks, because I noticed you have comments from the start. Throughout the session, you've been sending comments. So Proloy, thanks for listening to our nonsense for the last hour or so, whatever we've been rambling about. But Irene, to close this out, right? I think it'll make sense for us. You're sort of a Malaysian, in the UK now, and I'm sure that a lot of Malaysians tuning in now would like to know, your sort of take on Malaysia. Because a lot of people are, hey, is there a future here, in terms of the turmoil, in terms of the politics, in terms of all that, what sort of advice would you impart to Malaysians, as we kind of, especially you as someone from outside looking in? And Proloy says, thank you.
I can tell you that I have my roti canai, nasi lemak. In fact, I think I had a bihun soup yesterday.
So it's all about food.
Over here, I got curry leaf, and
you're asking us to come over there.
No, but what I think is we are in a very different framing. I think when you ask that rapid fire question, I think it's really important to realize that we are in 2021. You really, really actually don't need to choose. And COVID pandemic has done one thing for everybody, which is you actually now can even work in many different parts of the world. So why are you saying Malaysian, or you can get everything any part of the world? Nice. The problem is a fixed mindset, right? To say that I have to be here, I have to be there. You can be here, you can be there. Flights are dirt cheap. You can be here, you can be there. I'm working. So I think we need to push back against a system that forces us to choose.
That's fantastic.
I guess Thomas Friedman is right, lah. The world is flat. Reinforced by Professor Irene Ng.
And also the thing about it is, if you think about it like that, think about the future of government, right? The insular governments will say, I'll keep you in physically in Malaysia. The really progressive government will know, I'll embrace Malaysians all over the world. Because guess what? As an economist, I'll tell you, the Malaysians abroad create a lot of economic wealth too.
Fantastic. And what a great way to close out. I think your business model is very captivating and it blows your mind, to some extent. But I think your thoughts today on mobility, that you can be anywhere and do anything, it's
borders, boundaries.
Great way to end. We live in a boundaryless, borderless world.
Just be a hacker. Hack the geography.
And let's hack the world, right? Not just hacking the economy, let's just hack the world. So with that, let's continue hacking in Tech Talk Friday. We've got tons of comments coming in. Thank you everyone for being so engaging and exciting. Thank you, Arun, and thank you, Professor Irene Ng.
Thanks for having me.
Today. This has been Tech Talk Friday. It's been yet another exciting Tech Talk Friday with us. Join us again next week, 6 p.m. KL time, Tech Talk Friday. Have a great one, everybody. Happy weekend. And have a blast. And remember, we can be anywhere and do anything because we are in a boundaryless world and a borderless world.